What's up, everyone? It's UA from the Strictly Broken YouTube channel, and continuing along with our week's theme of Clan Selection Volume 2 decks and their updates. I got a Nectar deck profile today. Now, this deck honestly is not very good. Sorry, I can't even say it's not very good. It's just so linear and simple that it can't be bad, but it's actually just not that great either. And it's really just for those diehard Nectar fans or people coming in from Vanguard 0 or playing Vanguard for the first time. This deck is actually incredible because it lets you play Vanguard, and it's so simple to play. You don't need to know any combos. You just slap stuff down and play the game. It's actually incredible in that sense. But yeah, let me get straight to the profile. I don't want to roast this deck any harder. I do play the 4 Maidens that came out of Clan Selection. Card's pretty good. So, when it's plays, you get 2 tokens. Very, very easy. That's the Nectar theme this whole time, this token generation idea. And then the skill is Counterblast 1, retire 4 rear guards on attack to call 4 tokens. And then you're usually making it into your multi-attack columns, those 4 tokens. They get plus 10k, and this card gets plus 10k, or actually all tokens and this card get plus 10k if your opponent's grade 3. So when you ride to grade 3 first, your columns are so puny that if you don't go force 1, your restanding column is not even strong, which is already a downside of the card. But at least when you go second, you got to make these big restanding columns, and that is all she wrote. So basic. Multi-attacking like this is something that stuff like Mordred, stuff like Bermuda are already doing, but at a way better value than this card already. So this card almost feels outdated, borderline, but that's what we got in Clan Selection, so we play it. Next up, to support the Maiden, I got 4 Tomatoes. I'm a big Tomato stan. I started off by playtesting with Arbros, but how Arbros ended up feeling like for me was just a grade 3 that if I didn't draw the Maiden, I could ride Arbros, but I didn't really want to play a grade 3 that was just a substitute for Maiden if I didn't draw it. I wanted to play a grade 3 that supplements my Maiden when I draw both. That's what I'd prefer, because in the end of the day, I'm not really looking to play something just slightly or very samey to Maiden. I want to play something that makes my Maiden's turns better. And Tomato does that because in the early game, you get all these tokens and stuff, right? Maiden costs 2 tokens. If you just then play Tomato and suck 2 tokens to draw a card, and then after the Tomato swing, you cash it out for the tokens again to sack for Maiden, you're basically getting a free card out of doing almost nothing. And the Tomato column that you make is actually bigger than most columns you could actually create in that slot anyways. You're going 23, and then with the 4 is 33 potentially. You're cashing in a card. You're cashing back the tokens to sack for Maiden. It just does everything you want in the deck. So I think, it's a throwback to set 1, but it's Tomato again. And that's it for grade 3. 7 grade 3s. I usually like playing more than 7, but this deck really, you don't want to draw too many Tomatoes because that gets kind of cloggy, so I just cut it down to 3. Next, for grade 2s, we got a lot of them. We got 4 copies of Anelma, just a cantripping card. Yeah. In fact, if I show the grade 2s, I got 4 Anelmas, 3 Irminsouls, 4 of this new grade 2, and 4 Peonies. And the pattern of all these cards is they all cantrip somehow. In the case of Peony, it's just Peony just cantrips a token. But it's counterblast list, no counterblast costed, which is already really, really good. But all 3 of these cards, they have on-play draw effects. On-play draw, counterblast 1 draw, counterblast 1 call a token, and draw. So your entire grade 2 game plan is to slap down 3 of them. And because everything cantrips, you recover the cards back to your hand. You're not losing any card economy. And you just hit your opponent like a truck. Right? This is Nectar's honestly always been like that, so that's nothing new. But now that you have access to this card, which is a counterblast list, a 0 CB costed cantripping card that swings at 20k, is so good. Absolutely amazing, because you can play this card down, still do an Irminsoul or an Anelma, and you're just hitting so hard at your opponent. Your opponent's going to 3. Hopefully then you ride up and you just multi-attack, and hopefully they go to 5. You survive 1 more turn, then they die. This is the plan. You just hit like a truck until they die. And the grade 2 really shows that. I also don't play any copies of this card, Sunflower Guide or whatever, Sunlight Gardens Guide. I just think that you have so many cards that generate tokens in your early game. The grade 1, there's actually more. This card is just very useless and it's too cloggy. Like every time it's in your hand, you don't actually want to play it down because you already have so many more other options that do the exact same thing but can maybe plus and call the token, or just plus, which you just rather play onto the board. And by the time you hit grade 3, you don't even have the space to play that card. So you just never actually want to play Garden Guide on the field, and I just ultimately cut it. Just, literally every time it was in my hand, I didn't want to play it down. So that's grade 2. That's, how many is this? 15 grade 2s, all cantrip in some shape or form. And onto grade 1s. You know, along with Sylvia, there's 4 of these and 4 of these, which all also create tokens at no counterblast cost. So I guess these pair better together than, it's like these and these. The cards that draw and the cards that make tokens. This new one is really, really good because you can sack 2 tokens to add it back to hand, so you can kind of go pseudo, you get like a lot of pseudo value from this card. Getting that extra shield to survive your opponent's turn and stuff. It's kind of similar to Tomato in that sense where it gets you value. And yeah, I think this card's really, really good actually. Definitely one of the better. Like, I probably wouldn't have asked for a better effect than this. It's just really helpful to get that shield to survive. But, you know, honestly, they're just there for making tokens so that your grade 2 game gets super, super... you can just get super, super big powers with your grade 2 game, right? The tokens help make these cards more alive and stronger. Last grade 1, I just had 3 slots. Put in some grade 3 searchers just so you can get that consistency of getting Maiden, right? Because now that you're not playing like an Arbros, if you draw the Tomato and you don't draw the Maiden, kind of sucks. So at least you have like the grade 3 searchers to hopefully get Maiden. Then when you draw Tomato and no Maiden, at least if you have this, you can maybe get both, and then your grade 3 turn's pretty good. So vanilla, so simple, honestly. You got the starter here, and then you have the, what is it? You have 8 crit. Honestly considered more crits, but like the thing about PGs right now is like, I think Grand Blue is probably one of the stronger V Premium decks, and you need these for Skull Dragon. Like, Skull Dragon is just the absolute monster card, and if you don't have access to a PG that can PG for like 50k plus value, like the Crit Sentinel only does 30k, you're really just giving yourself an auto lose button against Skull Dragon, because Skull Dragon will just rip your hand apart and you're just gonna die. So I feel like draw PGs are kind of mandatory to at least compete with decks like that, and with decks that will have like huge Vanguards, right? It's just like MLB and everything. Not the strongest deck, but definitely PG, again, is a great example for why PGs, the actual draw PGs, are very, very important. So ultimately, it's just 8 crit. I would have liked to play more crit because I usually go Force 1, because I just think Force 1 works better with restanding columns than Force 2. But unfortunately, 8 crit is all I can fit in. But you can definitely play crit Sentinels if you want to hit more crits. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyways, there's really not much else to say about this deck. It's super, super basic, super, super simple. If you want to introduce a friend to Vanguard, just give them this deck. It's so simple to play. That's it. That's UA signing off. Peace.